Hey everybody, and what's going on? Happy Tuesday. And yeah, today we're going to be going over a recent town hall that Trump and Tulsi Gabbard went ahead and hosted themselves. And they're going to be talking about, basically what's going on with the race, where's Trump heads at the where's his mindset is at this point during the campaign, and then they're going to go ahead and hear from some town folks. I think that they're in Pennsylvania, if I'm not too mistaken. Hey, what's up, Smoke? Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. I really want to check this out. So let's see what they got going on.
We're counting down to the Harris.
Wrong one. Sorry, we're gonna see that one afterwards. All right, let's get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage four-term Congresswoman from Hawaii's 2nd District and Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army Reserve, Tulsi Gabbard.
It is such a privilege to join all of you here tonight. Thank you for your patience. It's worth the wait, right?
Oh, no.
What a special week.
What do you mean, oh, no? You don't like Tulsi Gabbard? What do you know? She gets a bad rep from the Democratic side, and there's a reason for it. If you know, you know. It has a lot to do with Hillary Clinton, for sure. But yeah, let's just hear what she's got to say.
To be here to join all of you. A few things have happened. Not sure if you caught it in the news. Two former Democratic presidential candidates have endorsed Donald J. Trump to be president of the United States.
Oh, he's coming up. He's coming up. Don't worry about it. He's coming.
You might have heard of a guy named Bobby Kennedy Jr. And I was really proud to stand with President Trump just this past Monday to announce my endorsement and support for him in front of thousands of my National Guard soldiers and airmen.
If you live within 30 miles
I don't got
of Los
Prime,
Angeles,
so yeah, I'm not going to pay for that
this.
shit.
I mean, we get mad.
Fellow soldiers and airmen. Because I am so excited about the opportunity that we have before us to stand together, not as Democrats and Republicans, but as proud Americans who love this great country.
All right, before she goes into it anymore, I just want to say what a huge, difference this is from what Kamala Harris just did with her interview with CNN. All right, so on one side you have Kamala Harris and goes on an interview after a month of not talking to anybody, actually a little bit more than a month of not talking to anybody since she was the presumptive nominee. And then she does an interview with, Walz, her selected VP, when it was supposed to be a one-on-one, and then they do less than an hour interview taped, and then they only release 18 minutes of it. It's like, okay, she didn't talk to any voters. She got softball questions for about half of it. And she was impressed on any of her answers, really. And now you have the opposite, Tulsi Gabbard with Donald Trump, live, no cuts, and they're going to be actually talking to people. That's a huge contrast between the two. One is scared to talk to the people, and the other one's talking to them directly. So I just wanted to point that out.
There's a lot of work to be done. The stakes could not be higher than they are right now. President Trump is going to talk about, and we'll have a conversation about why these stakes are so high and how he and he alone is the candidate to lead us toward that path of peace, prosperity, and freedom.
You're talking about California. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Join me in welcoming the next president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
We love our country. We love our country, don't we? It's amazing. And it's a great country, but we have to take it back because our country's not feeling so well nowadays, and we're going to bring it back, and we're going to make it healthy and beautiful and better than ever. And it's really, this is some crowd.
Yeah, he's
Let's
the
have a
Orange
good
Warrior,
time.
man.
Thank you very
The
much,
Orange
everybody.
Warrior.
Well, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
This is a very special evening.
Just look at how he's sitting, man. That is total, that's total Chad energy, how he's sitting like that. He's not sitting, cross-legged or anything like that, or up high, like a schoolyard look or nothing. He's sitting like a Giga Chad right there.
For us all to have a conversation about some of the real issues that are facing Americans across the country and that don't get talked about often enough. And I want to start with one that's very personal to me, hard to talk about sometimes. This is only the second time I've spoken about it publicly, but my husband and I were married almost 10 years ago. We wanted to start a family. We were very excited about it. Unfortunately, it was very difficult. We were not successful in trying to get pregnant. For us, IVF seemed to be the only option and the last resort. As you know, it's a pretty difficult process. It's very, very expensive. I was in Congress at the time, traveling. I would carry.
I wonder if Tulsi went ahead and put it in Trump's mind to go ahead and push forth that proposal he just made about IVF, that government in his new presidency, if he were to win, that he's going to push for IVF to become free and for the government to pay for it. In that instance, for people that have difficulty becoming pregnant, to try to get pregnant. I wonder if she had a lot to do with it, and it wouldn't shock me if that was the case. Stay pregnant. This is a serious matter. This is not the doctor's office. Yeah, it is a very serious matter, man. A lot of people would be very uncomfortable talking about it.
Shots to myself sometimes in an airport bathroom, and ultimately the most difficult part was every time going to the doctor for another transfer and hoping that it would result in a positive pregnancy test, and then being heartbroken over and over every time that test came back negative. Now, I know some of your opponents, your political opponents, are saying that you want to ban IVF. While it didn't work for us, it's worked for a lot of families. And I just know that there are women and couples in this crowd, or those who are watching here tonight, who
I gotta say though, but those procedures she's talking about are very expensive.
And are concerned about being able to have this option, either because they might not be able to afford it, or they're concerned that it just may not be available.
With that whole push with freezing your eggs things that girls are going to the corporate field, they're saying that we're going to freeze your eggs and then they'll be just as healthy as when you try to get pregnant later in life. Guess what? It's not the egg that determines that, it's your body.
Tough. Life is pretty tough. It can be beautiful, but it can be difficult. We are doing something with IVF, because IVF, as you know from friends and people you know, it's really worked out very well for a lot of people. It gave them a child when they would not have had a child. And I told my people I wanted to look at this a couple of weeks ago. And as you know, we have no taxes.
Yo, I can't believe these shorts from Fabletics are $10.
I'm not trying to look at crotches here, man. Come on.
On a thing called tips, you know that? And I said, tell me. We did three things. We did that, and we did no tax for seniors on Social Security benefits. We want to have that. And I've been seeing a lot of IVF, and I kept hearing that I'm against it, and I'm actually very much for it. In fact, in Alabama,
it's so funny because Kamala Harris is actually trying to steal that from Trump.
I countered the judge.
It was actually Trump that instituted the notion of no tax on tips, and then like a month later, Kamala Harris went to a rally, and then she proposed the same thing, even though in 2022, I think it was 2022, 2023, they put forth a bill that, like, for that very same reason, that they were like, okay, well, there's a lot of tips, getting thrown around in this country. It's all not being taxed, so we need to put forth a bill to tax the tips on, entry-level workers. And then they passed it, so now all tips are getting taxed, and now she's trying to reverse it. It's a joke, man.
And came out with a very strong statement for it. And the Alabama...
You were very quick in your response to that.
I was, but they were too. They were amazing. The legislature approved virtually my statement. I mean, full IVF, and it has really gone. It's terrific. And I said, so with the tips and with the Social Security, the no taxes on Social Security, I said, maybe for IVF, and I've been looking at it, and what we're going to do is for people that are using IVF, which is fertilization, the government is going to pay for it, or we're going to get or mandate your insurance company to pay for it, which is going to be great. We're going to do that.
I can't tell you
and
how
I have no idea
that would be for so many
yes.
families, because it costs a lot of money. A lot of people go into debt just for the hope of being able to start their own family.
Well, it's big, and you know what?
And what I wanted to say is this is complete opposite of what the Democrats are pushing for. They're pushing for abortions to be able to, like, no limitations on abortions across the board or throughout the United States. And Trump is pushing for IVF, which is people that actually want to get pregnant, to be able to get pregnant and then do procedures if they're having hard times with fertility. And that's just polar opposites of what's going on.
Want to produce babies.
And Smoke, did you know that Tulsi Gabbard was in the army, in the military?
In this country, right? We want to produce babies. So I think it's going to be something we sort of announced it a little bit. We were in a great place, Michigan. We all love Michigan, right? We're going to bring back the car industry. And we're going to get a lot of it back to Michigan. They've been taking our cars away. They've been taking our manufacturing away over years, over decades. And if you look at it today, it's a shell of what it was years ago, but we're going to bring it back. Mexico is right now building massive car factories, actually being financed and built by China. And they think they're going to sell their cars back into our country. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
You see that guy with the camera right there where Trump's knees at? He's trying to get
so many things
a certain angle. That looks hella awkward.
The union leadership has been horrible. I think I'm going to win by 85%, the union, but because we're bringing it back. And we're going to have electric cars, but we're going to have gasoline-powered cars, and we're going to have hybrids. We're going to have every kind of car. We're not going with just that. But I just felt that...
What's crazy to me is that Trump is trying to bring manufacturing to America. That's why we become, all the wealth comes into America from other countries because they're going to be buying up everything that we're making. And I don't know why everybody's against this. Like, it's like Trump is the one to institute it, and then the Democrats are, establishing regulation and taxes that decentivizes businesses to build factories here. It's like, why the hell would I build it in America where you have all these regulations that is like, red taping the shit out of my business, bleeding us dry, when I can go to Mexico where they have very little regulations and it's dirt cheap to build a factory and all the workers pay, work for $5 an hour, why wouldn't I go over there? So yeah, it doesn't make it much sense in terms of like the Democrat side saying we want manufacturing to come here to America, but yet you make it nearly impossible for the businesses to try to run here.
It would be a good place to announce it, and we did sort of the announcement there a little bit, and now we do the big announcement tonight in front of all of these television stations, all of the fake news, the fake, they're all over the place.
I'd rather go to Ireland.
All over the place. I don't know what's going on. We don't even know. I was saying, because we're doing this, and I finished, and I figured I was going to come here, and we're going to make a speech. I had a speech all set for you. I was ready. They said, sir, you're actually doing a town hall. I said, oh, nobody told me that. I said, who's doing it? They said, Tulsi. I said, well, that's at least good news. I've been a fan of hers for a long time, I have to tell you. So I didn't even know. I'm in the plane, and I'm looking over some material, and we're going to give you a hell of a speech tonight. We were set to give you one hell of a speech. They said, no, sir, it's a town hall. I said, why doesn't somebody tell me this stuff? And I don't even have any idea who we're doing it for. I don't know. Is it for a network or what? I see a lot of television all over the place, so maybe it's on all of them. But I did get to see the strangest thing today. I looked at the news conference of Kamala. I call her Comrade.
Kamala.
Comrade Kamala. She's you know that. She's a Marxist. Her father was a Marxist before her. So she was brought up in the family tradition. And she really is, and this country is not ready for a Marxist. We don't want a Marxist as a president. And she destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed California. And we're not going to let it destroy our country. I'll tell you, it's not going to happen. So.
Well, yeah, I don't know anything about Ireland, how they do things over there. But like every place wants a U.S. Constitution, dude. There's a reason for that. If you're not aware of the U.S. Constitution of what it's supposed to do, like that's the reason why like we're able to talk shit online, like I am right now about like the Democrats or whatever side's in power. If you go anywhere else, they can easily arrest you for that type of shit. If you look over there at Britain and the English over there right now, they're arresting people for posts online. Like you can't talk shit about Muslims over there online or else they'll arrest you.
But just to finish, so for some reason she doesn't want to talk to anybody. So she's either not the smartest light in the ceiling. I'm trying to be nice here. I want to be there. They say, be nice, sir, be nice. It's hard to be nice when somebody is destroying your country and wants to destroy your country. It's hard to be like nice. But
don't be nice, Trump. Don't be nice.
She is. She was a terrible vice president. She was a terrible border czar, worst in history probably, not just in this country, but the border. Millions and millions of people. I say 20 million plus have poured through the border during their term. I had the safest border in the history of our country. They have the most unsafe border in the history of the world, and they're coming through. And many of them are from prisons and jails. There's a slight difference, as you know, prisons and jails.
It's so funny. Yeah, last week talk shit about the cops, but they don't like that shit. They don't like it, but they can't arrest you for it. That's the thing that's cool about America, that you can actually talk shit about people, and they can't really do anything about it. They can talk shit back, but that's pretty much it. They can't charge you for it, at least not yet. If we keep going the way we're going, if Kamala gets into power, then maybe it'll go that way. But yeah, man, like that's why America is good, because we have the U.S. Constitution, we have the First and Second Amendment are the most important. If the First Amendment fails, that's why the Second Amendment is in place. That's where all the guns come into place. But yeah, it's so crazy that Trump was like, I didn't even know where I was going. I'm on a plane. I'm supposed to go to an event. I made a speech, and then they're like, you're going to a town hall instead. And he's able just to, right on the fly, and come up here and just start talking just like normal. Kamala can't do this. Biden can't do this. They're both, unfortunately, incompetent, so they can't do this type of stuff.
Many are from mental institutions and insane asylums, and many are terrorists, and they're pouring into our country at a level. I don't know if you saw the news today, Tulsi. They had a group of, a lot of them, Venezuelan people with lots of machine guns taking over a building someplace. I'm looking, I'm saying, where is that? They went in and they took over a building. This is just the beginning. They're taking their criminals from all over the world, not just South America, not just Venezuela, which you've been reading about.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All
in
over
California.
the world, they're taking their criminals and they're dumping them into the United States. Kamala is allowing it to happen. And they actually want to give them papers. They want to make them citizens, and they want to give them your Social Security. They want to.
And the reason why that is, Smoke, why they do that in California is the cycle of the governmental machine, is that the government will create the problem, then they ignore the problem, and then they wait for their base to complain about the problem, then they promise solutions. They put Band-Aids instead of solutions. They just put a Band-Aid on it, hoping that will shut you up, get elected again, and then they perpetuate the problem after that, and they create new problems once the problem is no longer a problem anymore. That's the cycle.
To give them your Medicare, and your Social Security will collapse under her. I'm the one that's going to protect the Social Security. But they're coming, I will totally protect, as I did for 4 years. And there was no age increase, there was no anything. We're going to protect. They destroy you with inflation, and then they want to destroy your Social Security. It's not going to happen. But this is going to be the most important election in the history of our country. So I just want to say that it's an honor to be with you tonight. It's a forum that's very different because I have no idea who the hell is broadcasting it. But all we'll do is we'll talk because we're friends. I love this state. I gave them Marinette. We gave them a very big, Tulsi, we have a ship contract. And as you know, we gave Marinette yards.
Oh, yeah, you can't be dumb and do the things that he's done.
They wanted it all
Not
over
possible.
the country. I said, we're going to get it for Wisconsin, and it's a big one. And they're doing a great job, I understand. So we got that. And we're going to have a good time tonight. So let's go.
Mr. President, you talked about immigration. We actually have Amber here who's quite concerned about that, and she's got a question for you.
Mr. President, hello. My name is Amber, and I'm from Cameron, Wisconsin.
Okay, they're in Wisconsin.
Beautiful
this is a must-win state for Trump.
Who to support. My youngest daughter is here tonight. My oldest son is 18, and he just started trade school this week. Very proud of him.
Trade school is actually more beneficial than college.
My concern is that illegal immigration
Especially
is
now.
threatening opportunities for my children. I worry that it's taking away jobs from Americans. I'm wondering, what will you do about that?
All right, well, it's great. I think I'll stand up and... Do you mind if I turn around? Thank you, Amber, very much. And you're right. I'll tell you, we have the people that I'm talking about. They're pouring in at levels never seen before. They're coming in by millions and millions, and a lot of them are taking the jobs for the black population, the Hispanic population, and unions are going to be very badly affected because, and I was talking to some of the union heads who I actually do get along with, but they're very concerned about it because the jobs that are, the people that are coming in are just taken, and it's going to start with the black population. African Americans are losing their jobs, and I don't know if you heard the latest statistic that of the jobs that these people created, which is very little, every single job was taken, about 107% was taken by illegal immigrants. There's been no job creation from them. The jobs were filled by illegal immigrants. With all of that being said, I want to give you a very positive answer. We're going to win this election. We're going to turn this country around.
And people are wondering, like, oh, why is, like, that a big problem that illegal immigrants come into the country and they flood the job market? It's like, okay, well, you think back towards the 1950s of, how life was back then? A garbage man can live off of one salary. He could be the sole bread provider in his family, and they can afford to buy a home, maybe even like a multiple room home, and live a modest lifestyle back then. Why is that not possible now? Well, when feminism came along and pretty much told women, hey, you're just as strong as men, you can do all the same things as men, you should enter the workforce too, be free, be independent. And then you flood the market with a bunch of workers. What ends up happening? Well, all the workers are trying to compete with each other in order to get a job. Well, the employers are all seeing this, and then they're like, well, you know what? Since we have all these willing bodies, then they're all competing with each other. So I bet a lot of them are willing to work for lower wages. So let's go ahead and choose those guys in order to work because we don't have to pay them as much, and they're going to be very eager to work. And so that's what's happened up until this point, is that the market is just flooded with a bunch of workers, and all of these companies are like, yeah, let's just, pick the qualified candidate that will work for the least amount of money. And then that's where we are. That's what an employer's job is to get the most amount of work for the least amount of money. And the more workers you got flooding the market, the more they're able to do that. And so with all these illegal immigrants coming in, and they all want jobs too, so they can provide for their families or whatever the heck their prospects are. There's no way that you're going to get a livable wage when there's like a bunch of competition around. There's no way.
We're going to become an unbelievable growth country, and your boy is going to have the greatest job. And you want to have a lot of choice with jobs. You want them to go up, and they get up, and it's hard to believe I have that the way I get treated, but I look forward to every day because we're going to make America great again. So I really do. I look forward to it.
That's right.
But we're going to create a lot of jobs. We're going to create. Does he want to stay here? Or does he want to go to a different state or anything? Yeah, someplace in the Midwest, but this is a good place to stay, right? Wisconsin. So we'll be creating tremendous jobs for our country, and we're also turning away. You know, we're going to be closing the border, really closing it. By the way, did you see? So Kamala was for defunding the police. She was for open borders.
Hey, did you like that smoke?
For everything that you're not against. I could go through 14 different. She's changed on every single one of them. In fact, I think we should see the man in the red hat and the beautiful woman in the red hat says, "Make America Great Again." Perhaps we should give Kamala a "Make America Great Again" hat, right? But the problem is, that's not her belief. Her belief is open borders. Her belief is getting rid of Social Security. Her belief is doing all of these plans, like for health insurance, where you have one big government-run mess. And if you have private plans, a lot of the people in this room have private plans. They're incredible plans. They worked hard to get those plans, and that's what they want. But with her, she wants to have, it's really a...
Well, you know what the interesting about that, they should send the military to fight the cartels, is that Trump, he said that once he gets back in office, he's going to designate all the cartels as terrorist groups. That's what he's going to do. So he's going to label them as terrorist groups. So if they come across them, they're gone.
Communist type of government. And I just saw her, Tulsi, she was sitting behind a desk doing this interview. And I said, "Dana Bash, you could make yourself big tonight. All you have to do is be fair." I haven't seen the questions, but they gave her a sample. In fact, she's going to be on later on tonight with a taped. It was a taped. We're doing it live. Why are we doing it live and she's doing it taped? But
that's right. He's real.
But she was sitting behind that desk, this massive desk.
Well,
she didn't look
yeah,
like
what they say, evil
honest.
never sleeps, man. There's always going to be some type of criminal organization trying to rise up and adapt to the times.
Kim Jong-un. So we're going to have to see what happens. I'll tell you what, November 5th is going to be the most important day in the history of this country.
If you have a child, 12 or older, and you like for them to get into the best university possible, I have something.
Mr. President, there are a lot of people who
I'm
want
not sure
to
about
feel
the Italians.
hopeful
I haven't heard
about
anything
our
about the
future.
Italians.
I want to introduce you to Luke, who is one of those people.
Hi.
Hello, Mr. President.
Good-looking guy.
Thank you. My name is Luke Pulaski, and I'm a junior here at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse.
This cameraman has like a hard-on for Trump. He hasn't left Trump's image off the screen. The other guy's talking. Vote.
First, as I've been living on
Pan
my
over
own,
to him.
buying my own gas and groceries, I have noticed that everything has become more expensive. For me personally, I try to eat healthy and stay lean. A pound of meat has gone from $4 to almost $7.
Finally, yes, he listened to me.
I would like to buy a home someday, but that seems just impossible now. What's your plan to make life more affordable and bring down inflation for someone like me?
Very good. Thank you. Good. It's probably the question I get most. You know, they say you're going to vote with your stomach. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's a little bit true. And groceries, food has gone up at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We've never seen anything like it. 50, 60,
maybe in
70%.
Chinatown, in Little Russia.
Take a look at bacon and some of these products, and some people don't eat bacon anymore. And we are going to get the energy prices down. When we get energy down, you know, this was caused.
You know, I don't know too many people that eat bacon, like, you know, nowadays. Do you guys still eat bacon? I still eat bacon.
By their horrible energy, wind. They want wind all over the place. But when it doesn't blow, we have a little problem. This was caused by energy. This was really caused by energy and also their unbelievable spending. They're spending us out of wealth, actually. They're taking our wealth away. But it was caused by energy. And what they've done is they started cutting way back. We were in third place. When I left, we were by far in first place, beating Russia.
Solar power and wind energy, they're great for, you know, environmental reasons, but they don't generate enough. If there's ever an emergency where you need emergency power, it's not viable enough.
Because everybody's afraid to talk about, oh, please, sir, don't talk about the election, please.
That's Zorro, man. What are you talking about? That's Zorro.
If you can't talk about a bad election, you really don't have a democracy if you think about it, right? But what they did, Tulsi, is they took back the oil production. The oil started going crazy. That started the inflation. Then they went back. They said, go back to where Trump was. The problem is that we would have been 3 times that level right now. We would have been so dominant over Russia and Saudi Arabia. Look, Saudi Arabia, Russia, a lot of oil. We would have had more. You know, we had something in Alaska, Anwar, that I created. I mean,
I don't know if this is true, but I heard somebody say this, is that Venezuela actually has more reserves of oil than OPEC. I have no idea if that's true, but if it is, we need to become friends with them immediately.
Ronald Reagan wanted it. You remember? Ronald Reagan wanted it. They all wanted it. And I got it approved. Nobody was able to get it approved. I got it approved. And the first week in office, they turned it back. They said, no, it's the biggest site possibly in the world. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. Well, we're going to start that up. We're going to become the energy capital of the world. We're going to pay down our debt, and we're going to reduce your taxes still further. And your groceries are going to come tumbling down, and your interest rates are going to be tumbling down. And then you're going to go out, you're going to buy a beautiful house. Okay? You're going to buy a beautiful house.
And I don't know if a lot of people know this, like basic economics, is that the reason why the interest rates are so high is because the banks are terrified to lend out money because they know that people are not going to be able to pay the payments back, and like they're going to lose the money, and then everybody that banks with them is going to complain, and then the bank's going to have to close down. That's basically why interest rates are so high, because they don't want anybody coming along asking for loans because they know they're not going to be able to pay them back, especially with the economy the way it is now. Back when Trump was in office, cash was a flush. So these companies, these banks are like, yeah, we'll just throw money at whoever. You know, you want a loan, you know, low credit score, doesn't matter. There's, you know, plenty of cash to go around. But so that's why, like, they're not worried about, you know, loans for houses foreclosing, loans for cars going up and up. So back then it was okay to go ahead and give out loans because there was no real worry about, you know, people not being able to pay them back. But now with the interest rates so high and prices going so high and gas the way it is, when the oil market drops and the gases spike, that's when everybody should be very afraid, because that means like every commercial good is going to go up as well to pay for the gas hikes. It's a scary thing whenever oil goes up.
That's called the American dream. The American dream. Thank you.
Yeah, the oil market.
I want to ask you a question about national security, but first I think it's important to point out
you have to agree that
organizers
coming back.
The cost of gas, the cost of housing, mortgages.
I don't think they ever left, dude. I don't think they ever left.
Kamala Harris's plan that she's announced is government price controls. And I think it's important to touch on, you just laid out your plan. What's going to happen if Kamala Harris institutes price controls?
So that's a communist plan. It's never worked. And it's been tried by others. Believe it or not, Richard Nixon tried it. A lot of people tried it. It's been tried many times, and it always leads to the same failure. Tremendous inflation, lack of product. You don't have anything. The stores are not stocked. It has never worked. It's called control. They want control. And, you know, it's been so often. And everybody that comes in, they say it. It sort of sounds great. We're going to go price control. Actually, when she announced it, she got absolutely slaughtered by even Democrats because...
And the reason why she got slaughtered for that plan is because when you put artificial ceilings on price for businesses that are already hurting and that can't possibly drop the price organically with their revenue stream, all that means is they're going to have to cut back on services or product. And Trump's exactly right. You're going to see like shelves going empty. You're going to see employees disappearing, and opportunities and job opportunities for, you know, local communities are going to dry up. It's going to turn into Detroit after the 1960 fires. Like, businesses are just going to go away overnight.
It doesn't work. It's a known loser. So now she doesn't talk about it. Do you notice she doesn't talk about climate change anymore?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that was Chicago.
You know why?
The fires.
Because people don't want to hear it. They want to live a good life. They want to live a life. They don't want to stop your industry with climate change. They used to call it different things, global warming. Remember, that wasn't working because it was getting a little bit cooler. So they said, what are we going to do? We'll call it global cooling. No. So they came up with the words climate change, because that takes care of everything. Climate change. The climate's changing, but according to them, we're all going to be gone at about.
Why that's so stupid is because we have seasons. So of course the climate changes every quarter.
It's climate change, but a different kind of climate change. It's called nuclear global warming. We can say that's global warming. And if we don't have a smart president, you know, you have 5 nations now with pretty massive nuclear power. Some have very massive, including us and Russia. China's behind, way behind, but within 4 or 5 years they'll catch up. And we don't want them to catch up. Look, the biggest problem, in my opinion, the biggest problem our country has, the biggest problem the world has, is nuclear weapons. They are a destructive force, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before.
Mutually assured destruction. That's what he's talking about. Everyone's terrified to launch their nukes because they know that the country they're nuking is going to launch them right back.
Exactly
and then
right.
that's going to cause chaos.
You brought up Ronald Reagan already. Ronald Reagan famously said, a nuclear war can never be won and should never be fought. And I think it's interesting you talked about...
I forgot who said this, but there was a great philosopher that once said, he goes, it might have been Einstein, where he says, I don't know how World War III is going to end, but he goes, I can guarantee World War IV is going to be fought with sticks and rocks. And the reason he said that is because of nuclear weapons.
About climate change, Mr. President, the Democrats and Kamala Harris, they were quick to talk about how climate change is an existential threat. But what they're not talking about is the existential threat of nuclear war and World War III, which is exactly where we sit today because of the warmongers and their puppets, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And they don't want to talk about it because the consequence of where they have taken all of us, as the American people and the world, is economic hardship around the world, a destruction of our economic well-being, and an annihilation of humanity, our families, our kids, our communities around the world. There was a recent poll that YouGov did that pointed out over 60% of Americans feel that World War III and nuclear war is going to happen within 5 to 10 years. And when I heard that, I felt so sad because they're at a point where they feel like this outcome, the annihilation of the world, is inevitable. So I wanted to ask you about this.
Here's the scary thing about that. Ukraine just invaded Russia. Russia, like Putin, I don't think he's the warmonger everybody's making him out to be. I think he's just very strategic and he wants the best for Russia. And I don't think he wanted to expand into Crimea and into Ukraine. But because of the push of NATO and Ukraine talking about they wanted to join NATO, and then we're putting a lot of fishy shit on Ukraine's border with Russia, that Putin was just like, no, fuck this, I'm gonna take the lesser of two evils. Instead of bombing everybody, I'm just gonna go to Ukraine and then tell them, hey, just stop this shit. But the real danger here is that if they keep pushing Putin, they keep pushing him, the biggest message he can leave on don't fuck with Russia is by bombing the U.S. And by bombing the U.S., I mean with nuclear weapons. So yeah, if this keeps going on, the first country that's going to get hit is probably the U.S.
Because it's important that people understand what kind of leadership you bring, what you will do to stop this slide towards nuclear war and World War III, so that we can feel hopeful again.
Well, thank you. So, Viktor Orban, a very strong leader from Hungary, Prime Minister of Hungary, they asked him recently about what's the problem in the world. A few years ago, during my term, we had we didn't have Israel being attacked. We didn't have Russia attacking Ukraine. And they asked him, why is it so bad now? The Middle East is on fire. So many places are on fire, and there are plenty places that could very well and very quickly catch on. What's the problem? He said, you have to bring Trump back as president of the United States. You will have no problem. He single-handedly
voting for the convicted felon.
And it's true. And I could do it with telephone calls by being smart. But literally, he said, you have to bring Trump back. Now, he used a term I wouldn't use. He said everybody was afraid of Trump. You know who was afraid of Trump? They said China was afraid of Trump. Russia was afraid of Trump. They were all, and I don't want to say that. I will say this. They respected me and they respected our nation. They don't respect our nation anymore. They don't respect our nation anymore.
You know what Trump is? Trump is like a top-ranked poker player. When he bluffs or when he puts down his chips, he means it. He's not just, bidding for nothing.
Chance. You know what happened, I think, Afghanistan, when he saw the horrible leadership that we displayed in Afghanistan, I think he said, wow, this is a time to go in, because I wasn't there. He would have never done it if I was president, and Israel would have never been attacked. Think of it. What would this world be like? You wouldn't have had that disaster. And it wasn't leaving Afghanistan. And they should have kept Bagram. That's the big air base. It's 1 hour away from where
it's over 9,000.
They didn't keep it. You know who occupies it now, Tulsi? China occupies it. So we have, if you have the right president, and we don't right now, do we even have a president? He just came in. Think of it. He just came in from wherever the hell he went. There was a coup. He just doesn't know it yet. But there was a coup. How about that? He got 14. I'm not a fan of his.
It's so hilarious. Trump said, I think, during the 2020 election, he goes, Biden doesn't even know he's alive. People have to tell him he's alive.
He was the worst president. But think of this. He got 14 million votes. She was the first one to leave, Kamala was the first one to quit. She never made it to the first state in the primaries, which was Iowa. Never even came close. Other people did, but she never even came close. And all of a sudden, she was picked, and she's now running for president. And look, it just started, really. It just really started. The polls have us up here. We're up in states, but it's close. It's close. It's close. And, they cheat like hell, so we don't want to have it too.
And you know why that terrifies Democrats, that the polls are so close? Because if you look at the polls back in 2020, right before the election, they had Biden up by double digits in basically every state, especially the swing states. They were like, Biden's going to win by 10, Biden's going to win by 8, by 6, by 7 in most of the swing states. And then when all of the votes were counted, he ended up winning some of the states by less than 2 points. And then Kamala is essentially tied with Trump right now, maybe a little ahead in some swing states. So what that basically means is they overestimate their candidate, which would be Kamala, by a lot. So if she's tied and only a little ahead now, that basically means Trump is ahead by 5. That's what that means.
Close, but we have to win this. We're not going to have a country. But with him, I was so far up. We had a thing called, how did he do in the debate? Did you think he did well? Not too good? No, they wanted to have a debate. I said, okay, it's a little bit early, isn't it? I was trying to talk them out. I said, well, it's a little early for a debate, right? And they said, well, I think we'd like to do it. And that was not a good debate for them. That was not a good debate. So
that killed Joe Biden's campaign, that debate.
But they picked a woman that had absolutely no votes. She got no votes. And now she's running. So when you say threat to democracy, they are a threat to democracy. I'm not a threat to democracy.
Yeah, the Democrats killed democracy. It's dead. It's dead now.
Mr. President,
I never want to hear a Democrat talk about we defend democracy. No, you killed it.
Danielle here, who has a question for you.
Hi, Danielle.
Pan to her and give her a mic. I can't hear shit.
Well, you get a lot of those questions from Minnesota.
Are these pans actually non-stick? I had the same thought as you. How can a stainless steel pan be non-stick? But
you get a lot of those questions because Minnesota, they picked this guy.
I think he's talking about walls.
Weird. What? He's weird. I'm not weird. He's weird.
The gangsters are coming back. I don't know. We'll see.
No, he's a weird guy. He's a weird dude. See, they come up with sound bites. They always have sound bites. And one of the things is that JD and I are weird. That guy is so straight. JD is he's doing a great job. Smart. Top student. Great guy, and he's not weird, and I'm not weird. We're a lot of things. We're not weird, I will tell you. But that guy is weird, don't you think? You know, he signed for, and this is, who would...
Hey, the guy he's talking about is Walz, the Harris's, nominated VP pick. And have you ever seen that guy, like, walk around and greet people? He looks like he's gay. Like, the way he, like, carries himself, even though he has family and kids, he acts gay. It's so odd.
I think that this is even happening in our country with men playing in women's sports and all of this, but he has it at a level that nobody can believe. A bill that every boy's bathroom will have tampons, okay? Hence his name, Tampon Tim. But think of it. Think of it. And you know, on the question of abortion,
it's just his time of the month, man.
He is a one. Abortion in the 9th month. And if the baby in Minnesota, and I'd love to win Minnesota because those people aren't digging.
You know what's freaking insane, dude, is that he's absolutely right. In some states, you're allowed to abort up to 9 months and even after birth, which means that when the doctor tries to abort the baby is diving, dodging, the needle and the freaking knife that they're trying to kill it with. And then it gets born, and then they're like, well, sorry, we don't want you. Crack on the table.
This guy, they're not digging this guy. But think of this. 6 states, Minnesota's one of them. If the baby is born, you're allowed to execute the baby think of that, after birth in Minnesota, you're allowed to execute. And you remember the former governor, not the current governor, who's terrific, Len Youngkin. We're going to win maybe Virginia. We could do that. But the former governor, and he said, you sit the mother down and the father down.
It's fine, man. Go to town. Go to town.
And the baby is born, and you make a decision what to do. He meant, do you execute the baby after birth? And according to what they have passed and legislation,
Chris Rock had a stand-up about this. He was like, if the dad wants to abort the baby and the baby lives, he's going to come back and be like, what the fuck is your problem, man? Yeah, I live, bitch.
In fact, a Marxist/communist. Remember, I'd say all the time, our country will never be socialist, right? We will not have a socialist. Well, I was right. We skipped socialism. We went to communism. This woman has to be stopped.
Mr. President, we have...
You hear that guy? He's like, she's a witch.
Final question. I don't know if we can get a mic to Bernardo. He's got an important question, given very soon we will be honoring the anniversary of September 11th and all of the lives that were lost on that tragic day and that tragic attack where...
Who here think that was an inside job by the American government?
And Bernardo wanted to share his thoughts and had a question for you on this.
Mr. President, my name
Nothing
is
happens in the United States terror-wise without the government's approval.
Live in the
Just want you to know
wonderful La Crosse County here. And I'm also a father of 8. I have 7 here with me.
That poor wife. She's just having baby after baby. It turned into Stargate, just materializing out.
Coming up. I'm concerned that we're more vulnerable now than ever. And we have a Democrat nominee who doesn't even want to say the words, says we shouldn't say the words, radical Islamic terror. How are we going to protect America?
Well, if they don't bake enough for the 9 months, then maybe, yeah.
First of all, it's a great question. And,
it's going to turn into the scene from Men in Black. She's going to be in the back of the car, and then all the tentacles just fly out.
We kept them out. We had 1 year where Border Patrol put down, it was, I believe, 2019, where they, and I don't believe this, I don't believe it's right, but I'll take it. They said 0 came in 20, that was my term, 0. Now we have thousands. I'd like to say that was true. It's probably not, because I can't imagine that. But we were very tough on that. Now they have thousands and thousands coming in, along with the prisoners and along with the crime. And
what he's talking about is getaways, is like people on terror watch lists that make it through the border unvetted. That's what he's talking about.
It's not even believable. But your question on Islamists and all of the jihad and all of the things that they talk about, they have to respect your country. They have to respect your leader. You know, I had no radical Islam crime for 4 years, and I didn't want to talk about it. I talked about it after, but I didn't want to talk about it during. I don't want to say, like, I had absolutely, and the next day you get hit. But we had none.
North Korea is going to be pissed.
They respected your president.
I don't know, man. Kim Jong-un actually likes Trump. He likes him. And Trump is actually trying to get North Korea to open up to the rest of the world and, like, you know, do more business.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we'll see where that goes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know you have run out of time here, but thank you for having this conversation with the people of Wisconsin and people across the country who are watching and concerned about these very same issues. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank
you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, everybody. Vote. Vote.
Damn, that was short. I thought that would be longer.
If you live with...
All right, that's it for that one. Okay. It was short but sweet. I liked it. They talked about some pretty relevant things, even though it didn't go for too long. But at least he took questions, man. That's total contrast to what Harris was doing with that stupid CNN interview with this chick that you see here on the screen, Dana Bash. She gave her some hard questions here and there, but she didn't push. So, you know, that was, to me, that was like amateur interview. Amateur. All right, so in this right here, I just wanted to go over this real quick. She actually had, like, Tulsi Gabbard on to go in and talk about, like, you know, some things that were coming out in the news. Kamala Harris being attacked. Not being attacked, but being accused by Trump by being what would you say, a heritage opportunist by flipping between Indian and black. So let's see where that goes on. The video was bullshit. I guess, man. Whatever you feel inside, you know, it's right there. You know, if it's in your gut, fart it out.
Trump debate, and my next guest is a former 2020 Democratic presidential candidate and congresswoman who endorsed Trump this week and is helping him prepare for that debate. Here with me now is former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you so much for being here. Vice President Harris's campaign manager released a memo this morning saying they expect former President Trump to be a, quote, formidable opponent on the debate stage. Do you think Kamala Harris?
I think Kamala Harris is going to lose her shit on the debate stage. She cannot handle herself when people talk back to her. You always see this whenever this happens. Whenever somebody says something she doesn't like or questions her on it, she always goes, I'm speaking, okay? I'm speaking, motherfucker. And Trump's going to be like, woman, shut up, I'm speaking. Shut up, you're the woman, shut up.
Will be a formidable opponent as well, and how is the former president preparing to debate her?
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris has a lot of experience. She is not to be underestimated. President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris have very different records. This is a unique situation.
And just so if you don't know, Tulsi Gabbard debated Kamala Harris during the 2020 presidential debate, and she was the reason Kamala didn't even make it to the first primary. She killed her so hard on the debate stage that Kamala essentially gave up her campaign because of it. So, and then Tulsi is going to be the one to advise Trump on the next debate, on the next presidential debate. So it's going to be a freaking slaughter.
We have two candidates who have served at the highest offices in the land. President Trump, 4 years as president. Kamala Harris, now almost 4 years as vice president, working alongside President Biden. And so this will be an opportunity for voters to look at and compare and contrast those records. If I can be helpful to President Trump in any way, it really is just in sharing the experience that I had with her on that debate stage in 2020, and frankly, helping to point out.
I'm going to bring flags. I'm going to stream that live when they have that debate, and I'm going to bring flags just to be like, foul, technical, get the fuck out of here, guy.
And
you're
how
killing
that
her.
contradicts the positions and statements that she is making now, that she is the Democratic nominee.
And it is a remarkable situation in that you are.
Yeah, a lot of people. That's why they turn away from the news because of that very reason, Smoke. But I like watching it because I like watching their bullshit and making fun of it.
Nominee to debate her, and on that, I remember in 2020 you attacked Harris for being too aggressive as a prosecutor, which is the opposite from what Donald Trump is saying about her as weak on crime. So which is it?
What I pointed out in that debate stage in the 2020 campaign was her hypocrisy. It was how she was saying one thing and doing another, how she was prosecuting people for smoking marijuana and laughing about it when she was asked about it on a radio show. And I think this goes to the heart of many of these different issues that we're seeing now that Kamala Harris is trying to hide from voters, is how she says her position is one thing, but her actions and her record show exactly the opposite. And you can point to that on issues related to the economy, issues related to freedom of speech. She says she stands for
the one on the left looks constipated.
And yet, as we've seen time and time again, her and Joe Biden have taken actions both directly and indirectly to censor free speech. Most recently, I can point to my own experience of this, of how the Harris-Biden administration have added me to a secret domestic terror watch list the very day after Kamala Harris was endorsed by Joe Biden. And I was on TV and warning the American people about what I saw as the dangers of a Kamala Harris presidency, taking action that was clearly political retaliation. They've done this to a lot of different people, which points to how dangerous it is to have people in power so willing to abuse that power to go after political opponents.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the secret terror watch list. We're definitely going to follow up on that,
You are the fucking news. You're the one that's supposed to know all this shit, and you're saying that you're not aware of this, that she was on a terror watch list? That thing broke, and I knew about it right away because Tulsi Gabbard herself came out and said, hey, they put me on a terrorist watch list. I was like, what the fuck? You know, everybody knew about this on X. Everybody knew about it on YouTube. And yet this girl that's supposed to be a journalist from CNN had no fucking idea. It's like there's only one or two things that's happening right now. Either she's completely incompetent as a journalist, which is bad enough and she should be fired immediately, or she's playing dumb, which is like, well, that's going to hurt, you know, my party's agenda, so I'm just going to act stupid and act like I don't know what the hell you're talking about so we can just brush it under the rug.
I do want to move on to what is happening with regard to controversy after the former president visited Arlington National Cemetery this week. His campaign took photos and video of him in Section 60, where veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are buried, used it in a campaign video. The Army also says that Trump staffers abruptly pushed aside a cemetery official who tried to enforce Arlington's rules prohibiting political activities. I know you were with Trump at least earlier in that day at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Did you witness the altercation at Section 60?
Which is hilarious is that Biden did this exact same thing 4 years ago during the 2020 campaign. And Megyn Kelly came out recently. She's an independent reporter now. She used to work for CNN. She came out recently and said Biden did the same thing, and they have footage and video of it. So it's not just Trump that did this. It's fucking crazy, man. Like, they always accuse people of what they've done already. Remember I was telling you the other day, man, Smoke, about how a guilty person will always accuse the other person of doing something that they're doing. Like, if I were to cheat and my girl is, like, innocent, I'll accuse her of cheating because, you know, it's just projection. That's exactly what they do every single time.
60?
I was there from the beginning with the laying of the wreaths with the family members, the Gold Star family members, and some of the survivors of that terrorist attack in that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I was with them at Section 60, and what I saw was a very grave and somber
they all blame each other, a bunch of children,
and honoring
in essence,
of those lives
in some
that
essence,
were lost.
definitely.
And I saw President Trump spending time at the invitation of these Gold Star families with them. He was there for a few hours. I did not see or hear about any kind of altercation until something came out in the news later on. The families were there grieving alongside President Trump, and it was a very special moment to really remember their names, remember their memories, and understand the true cost of war and the consequences of the decisions that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden made in the execution of that withdrawal.
Yeah, and it is very clear that the former president was invited in his personal capacity, as you said, by a family of one of the service members who was killed about a year.
You see how she can't even say it? She's like, they were a Gold Star family. That's what they are. They're Gold Star family. They invited him there. And then, like, there was this accusation that Trump wasn't invited to go to that ceremony and that only the president was supposed to be there. Well, the president wasn't there because he was on vacation, so he doesn't give a fuck about them. And the nominee for the Democrat Party that is running for president, she wasn't there either. And the only one that was there was Donald Trump. And then they're talking shit. It's like, what the hell?
2 years ago, during the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
It was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years
Thank
ago
you. Thank
to
you
the
for
day
correcting
on
me.
August 26th.
Yes.
What a trash reporter. She doesn't even know when the Afghanistan incident took place. She had to be corrected by her guest. That's pathetic.
3 years ago. The question is about the federal law and Arlington's rules that prohibit partisan or political activities at national cemeteries. And the military and also other members of other families who are buried right near there are upset about the campaign filming it and posting the video online. Do you believe that was appropriate?
You know, I checked with the campaign on this question, and they have exchanges with the officials at Arlington Cemetery. They were approved to bring a camera there to document this historic and momentous day that should not be forgotten by any American.
Boom, checkmate. Checkmate. We checked with the campaign. They said they were allowed to bring a camera. Fuck you, CNN, Data Bash. You guys are pieces of shit. Don't know what the hell you're talking about. Get the hell out of here.
And to have a former president there and joining these Gold Star families, I know President Trump wanted to share that with others, especially given the fact that President Biden and Harris, I heard, were invited by some of these family members. They not only didn't come, they didn't even respond to that invitation. And now to have Kamala Harris put this statement out yesterday saying that she stands with these families, she stands with the military and with veterans, you only have to look at the response that came from the Gold Star families of these 13 service members of how offended they were by that statement, given she has not made any effort, not on that third anniversary or any other time, to call them directly to offer her condolences and even apologies for their decisions that led to the loss of their loved ones.
Do you think that the campaign will release that communication that you're talking about? Because the Army is saying very clearly that they broke the rules because it was.
You see how she glossed over that? She didn't want to address that point that Tulsi just made, that the families actually reached out to Kamala and Biden to go ahead and take part into the ceremony, and they didn't even get a reply. That is a huge red flag to the American people. If that were to get more airtime, Kamala's all her polls would go straight down the tube. And Dana knows this, and she was just like, well, yeah. Do you think that they knew about, the illegalness of, Trump bringing a camera crew, even though Biden did it 2 years earlier? She just glossed right over that. It was a good thing she did that, because that was a huge shot to the kidney.
Clearly put out online pictures, video, meant as a part of his campaign.
I thought they already had. I was informed that they had come to an agreement. They could bring a camera there. And as far as I know, and the public statements I've seen from the Army, is that the matter is closed.
I think the matter is closed about the alleged altercation, which you didn't see, but I'm not sure it's closed with the idea that they seem to have broken the rules and perhaps even federal law by putting out the campaign video. I want to ask you about.
It's so funny. Who is complaining about this? Is the Army complaining about it? Did they bring forth charges? If not, then why are we even talking about it?
I'd like to say one last thing on this, because I think it's important, and I've seen a lot of the headlines and the stories and the concerns that people are raising about this. But to me, as a soldier and as someone who has been deployed to different war zones in the world, and I have friends who are buried there at Section 60, what is more outrageous to me is that there wasn't universal coverage of the momentous day of the third anniversary of the loss of these 13 Gold Star families, and the outrage that they feel that their loved ones are not getting the kind of coverage and memory that their great sacrifice deserves. That is what everyone should be outraged about.
Well, yeah, we have covered the horrible events 3 years ago, and
Oh, she
have
finally
done
got it
so
right.
several times, over and over again. So I appreciate you also talking about their memories, because it is important. Before you go, you said in an interview this week that you were
like, "It is
interested in
important,
serving in a
fucking
Trump
bitch. Stop bringing that
administration,
shit up."
potentially as Secretary of State, maybe Secretary of Defense. Have you discussed that with Donald Trump directly?
No, I haven't. You know, it's important for us right now to point out the difference between Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump, what kind of president and commander-in-chief they would be. And really the leading concern that I have is about this, about the contrast between their positions and their records, and the fact that as we sit here today, President Biden and Kamala Harris have us embroiled in wars in 3 different regions of the world, have us closer to the brink of World War III and nuclear war now than ever before, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. And this should be of concern not just to Republicans and Democrats, it should be a concern to all Americans, because what's at question is our ability to have a future. And
So I'll go ahead and end it there, but yeah, she's absolutely right, man. Look, we're living in a powder cake right now. Just one little spark kicked the whole thing off, and then we're in a nuclear holocaust pretty damn quick. But to go back to her point, I think that if Trump was smart, which he is, what he'll end up doing is that once he wins, he's going to go ahead and put RFK and Tulsi Gabbard onto one of his cabinets, in his cabinet, into one position or something like that. He was talking about creating a committee of rivals, and I think that they're going to be part of it, which will probably be good, and they're going to be advising him on a bunch of like serious topics, which will be good. And yeah, so we'll just go ahead and end it there. I like the town hall. It was short but sweet. This right here, this woman right here, Dana Bash, got her ass handed to her on multiple occasions. It was, you know, very fun to watch and to criticize her ass and talk shit. But yeah, Smoke, I'm also going to go live a little bit later on tonight, dude. We're going to do Arkham City Part 2. So yeah, if you want to catch me there, man, I'll see you then. All right, for everybody else watching and listening, you know, have a good night. Have a good rest.